From a space of connectivity, our movements need to flow through our bodies. While rules have helped us learn to play the organ, they don't need to stay with us if they create rigidity and unwanted tension. Hi, my name is Sarah Svendsen, and welcome back to Organist Launchpad. There are two larger categories to describe types of playing pain risk factors. In the previous video, I reviewed some of the cultural factors at play which can contribute to playing pain. In this video, I will review some of the physical ones. First, we need to talk about body use. Our bodies are our instruments. The daily experiences of our bodies can impact the quality of our organ playing. It's our job in the physical realm to be aware of our total body usage and to do our best to adapt to the needs of our bodies. As I mentioned in a previous video, overuse is cumulative, which means that risk factors can be in multiples. I will cover 4 physical risk factors today. These are lifestyle management, rehearsal design, practice techniques and repertoire management, and organ interface and body engagement. One way to decrease strain overuse risk is through lifestyle management. It's important to be aware and responsible to pre-existing conditions. This is a rather standard comment for something when we're talking about physical bodies. What I say here is not for everyone. There are some techniques to try with your understanding and engagement of your own healthcare needs. It's important to maintain responsible level of physical fitness, which supports organ playing instead of further contributing to overuse. Be aware and regulate daily activities contributing to strain and overuse. These are pretty self-explanatory. I invite you to explore physical fitness and daily activity regulation as it works for you in your daily habit building. Because it's habit-based, I also recommend starting very small if some of these things are new to you. Another way to approach risk decrease is through rehearsal design. Designing a rehearsal flow for optimal variation in physical needs is always encouraged. Try to have different pieces at different levels of preparedness so that you'll be varying the types of playing. You also want to vary the piece by body requirements. So if one piece has a lot of pedaling, try and balance that with a piece with less pedaling. Plan out your practice to have slower, healthier pieces opening and closing your session. Try to build up stamina to increased practice time. Don't expect to play for 3 hours straight if you've only really been doing 1 hour recently. You need to build up to it, like training for a marathon. Gradually increase from your standard practice time to your goal daily practice time in increments of 30 minutes or less per day. It's also encouraged to do a physical body warm-up or cool-down as part of your practice regime. It's also encouraged to stop before you get tired. Design your sessions to be less than 3 hours and always take breaks. Recommended by most authors is a break every 20 to 30 minutes. A break means no movements that are similar to what you do in rehearsal. So get off your phone. Don't allow yourself to get tired. Practice in 20 to 30 minute intervals with 5-minute breaks. Set an alarm for those breaks. Stay off your phone. Divide your time between piano and organ. If there is something you can do on the piano, put it aside and grab it there. Managing approaches to practice techniques and repertoire can also help to decrease strain and overuse risk. First, piano assessment. How much can be learned at the piano? How much is difficult and requires special techniques to learn efficiently at the piano? How much piano time is required total for learning this piece? Second, organ assessment. Assess the difficulty of the pedal line. Write in the pedaling. Assess the difficulty of putting hands and feet together. Assess console management requirements. Are they high, low? Will the management take up a great deal of the practice time? How much organ time might be required total for learning this piece? Third, score analysis. Assess basic form, repeated themes, and major patterns. Develop a marking system. Next, learn patterns as units through tailored practice techniques. Follow through your score analysis you've already done with practice techniques, catering to learning these parts and patterns as units. Some techniques you could consider trying are changing the rhythm, cluster chords, and jumping to and from different sections to vary how you're asking your body to work. Avoid long playing durations with body misalignment by alternating with sections allowing for more alignment. Plan your console management, in trios specifically, but in all repertoire it might apply. Consider changing hand positions and manipulating the registration to allow for less spiral action. So, for example, a lot of trios ask the left hand to play up in the treble. Instead, consider pulling it down an octave and using a forefoot. When practicing console management, focus on just getting piston and other management changes from 1 or 2 bars before to 1 or 2 bars after. Try alternating repeating motion requirements with other music preparation, which asks for different things of your body-mind. Use the piano when possible. Consider the demands on your body when designing concert programs. Try to have variation of the body requirements. Finally, organ interface and body engagement can also help reduce strain overuse risk. A lot is asked of organist bodies. Our upper body has varying distance of reach for the arms, maintaining core and balance, jumping between multiple keyboards, and neck strain to see music. Our lower body uses the feet and legs to move in multiple directions for long periods of time, uses core strength and balance, requires hip mobility, and that knee technique, be careful. There are a few ways we can approach our instrument. First, instrument modifications. Adjust your workspace to you. 2 non-invasive instrument modifications which are available: adjustable bench and adjustable music rack. While each of these modifications are not super cheap, they allow you to most flexibly adjust your workstation to your body, rather than you adjusting your body to your workstation. Some people use homemade blocks. That's an awesome hack and better than no adjustment, but a fully adjustable bench would still be my recommendation since it allows for more options. An adjustable music rack. This is one we don't see in Canada a lot yet, but it does exist. It allows the desk on the organ to be moved out towards you, so your neck doesn't have to strain as much when looking at your music. Instrument interface is the way our body connects to the machine. First, we have to look at bench height. It needs to be balanced between the upper and lower body. Shoulders need to be relaxed and down for playing most of the manual levels. We need to be able to reach the pedals with enough room above the knee to move freely. Note, lower limbs should not feel like they are stretching to reach. The bench distance from the console needs to allow for natural arm bend, similar to the piano, and the feet need to be able to reach pedals and expression boxes without reaching or feeling squished. Alignment is one of the annoying words my students never stop hearing. I'm here with Michael O'Neill, and we're going to work on instrument interface, body alignment, and body engagement. Good. How do your knees feel?
Feels good.
I think we could do with pushing you in a bit. How do you feel about that?
Maybe a little off balance this far in.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you try dropping your weight into the back of your seat a little? So right now you're leaning, right now you're leaning back, but you're doing it from your upper back.
Right.
Rather than having it kind of come down into the actual bottom of your buttocks.
Okay.
So may I touch you?
Yeah.
Okay. Just gonna bring you up here, and then we're gonna pull, just gonna grab your belt loops, a bit more like this. And I just want you to wiggle a bit in that, because the last thing we want is kind of stationary, someone's forced you in a position. Tension. Tension's our biggest villain in this space. So you look a bit healthier now, because your spine is more stacked on top of your pelvis, whereas before it was kind of leaning back, your center of gravity.
Right.
So you might need to think just a bit more about having some weight to the back of your seat.
Right.
Do you feel like when you play, you kind of are on the edge of your seat?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
I would probably be more back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and would you normally, but still have your arms, wide? Would you have your arms long like that? Or would you have more of a curve like the piano?
Probably long, yeah.
Interesting.
Not so curvy.
Yeah. So ideally, because if you're already stretched here, that's going to be too much. Yeah, that's too much for your shoulder. Can you do it on this side? That's too much for your shoulder.
Right.
So we need this to kind of be, the grate is kind of the grate and swell is our healthy piano positioning of a bit of a bend in the arm. And then these shoulders are up a bit now. Just go, whoop, drop, there you go. And then that allows you to get to the upper manual a bit more safely, which is why in bigger organs, you have to do different things than smaller organs.
Right.
This is a great position for a 3-manual organ. The 4-manual, you might need to be a bit higher and a bit closer. I would say that's what I normally find myself doing. Like 4 or 5 manuals, I'm higher and closer if I'm using the uppermost manuals.
Closer sitting on the bench or closer
Or the
leaning
bench
forward?
physically,
Okay.
depending on how much I'm playing. If I'm using the 4th manual or 5th manual a lot, I probably have the bench scooched just a bit.
Oh, okay.
But if I'm only kind of grabbing something, yes, I might tilt from the pelvis. The point is we don't want to spend too much time with anything that has a lot of tension. That's our number one goal.
Would you ever move the bench forward if you were playing a lot on the top manual?
Yes. Yep. Definitely. And it just depends. If you have space in a concert program to do it, I would. But definitely for practicing. Practicing is where you want to make as many changes as you can to your work situation so that your body is making less changes. Because anything you don't change your instrument to do, your body does for the instrument.
Right.
So we want to make as many modifications to the instrument as we can so that our body gets to be happier and healthier for longer. Alignment helps to bring the player's attention to their body in that moment. Alignment in motion is a term I like to use to describe how alignment works while playing the organ. It involves having a primary posture which is ideally aligned and which gives strength and balance. It is not rigid. It can be accessed during movement. Body awareness can naturally feed optimal alignment awareness. Now, when it comes to body alignment, alignment in motion is something I also like to talk about. So this idea that alignment rather than posture. So if I asked you to sit up with good posture, what would you do?
Something like this.
That's pretty good. You showed me something earlier, though. Yeah, okay, so that's a bit forced. And so a lot of people have an experience of someone walking past and going, stand up straight, and then they go like this.
Right.
And so we want to avoid that, especially while teaching. So alignment rather than posture is just a word that doesn't have as much pre-learned things that are going to maybe encourage different types of tension settling in. So now, instead, we're going to practice trying to look at the picture that will be on the screen for the YouTube video. So we have this line down the middle, and that's the hard line axis. But our spine is not a line, a straight line. It's actually this S-curve that wraps around. So you have your neck and head just slightly before, then it wraps back behind the curve and then comes up through it. So if you picture that a bit and start to stack. So let's actually stand up. And this is where it can be helpful to go to a body mapping class for musicians. We're just gonna shake it out like from our hips a little here, trying to get things awake. Even choir, there are a lot of choir directors who are using really wild warm-ups these days where you're engaging a lot of your core and torso. And
Right.
so the big thing is we're just trying to teach our body all these connecting points that we tend to have lost in our modern world of sitting on a computer or a laptop like this.
Right.
So you have your pelvis, we're just gonna shake it, and then we're gonna go and stack our spine on top, one vertebrae at a time. Good, and yeah, you're forcing a little bit. Can I ask you to, we'll face this kind of angle, so yeah, and we're gonna drop down. Drop down, I'm just gonna come in here, shake a bit more. Let your knees bend, but drop forward. There you go. And then I'm gonna ask you to come up one vertebra at a time, just picturing it stacking
Knees
on.
bent the whole
Yeah,
time?
knees bent, picturing your spine stacking onto your pelvis. And then let those shoulders drop from here. That's pretty good, yeah. That's very good. Okay, so now just feel inside that. Try and move your body while feeling all the parts of your limbs and where things are attaching. your torso, can you feel engagement from different places? Can you start to feel how they speak to each other? Try taking a deep breath and notice, can I feel my lower abdominals when I take a deep breath? Can I breathe? So you're breathing up to here. Can you breathe down to there? Just letting it drop.
Oh, that is a little different.
Let a breath drop in. And just maybe move a little bit.
I feel my shoulders dropping a lot.
That's
that feels
good.
a little unnatural sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And they're dropping forward,
Right.
not necessarily down, which sometimes a lot of people, because we all tend to walk around like this, when we think shoulders down, we go, ugh. But sometimes we can actually drop from lower. There's these muscles here we can release,
Oh, yeah.
but without releasing this. We want this.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. And this is why a body mapping course is really helpful, because you basically just learn how to feel your body and feel how all these different body parts connect.
Right.
And so the biggest space where I've found my injuries come from is when I'm not paying attention and I'm allowing a kink to sit there for a long time. So just as if you were playing with a wire, say, and you let a kink live in an audio wire.
Right.
At that point, unless you remove the kink, something bad's going to happen eventually. So how do we have constant flow of energy in that wire? And it actually comes to, at this point, one of the ways we can do that is by being aware of our body and trying to encourage body alignment and mapping inside it. So that engagement of all the pieces. Body engagement while playing can be broken down into 3 body areas. These are lower body, upper body, and core. For the lower body, we'd like the right foot and left foot placement, when not playing, ideally to be flat on a surface. When they're needed, try keeping in the slots between B flat and C sharp and E flat and F sharp. Don't use the knees together rule. Instead, think of how a body does and does not naturally move and let that inform knee placement. Work towards proprioception, or knowing where notes are, by feeling for key points. For the upper body, be aware of feelings in the body and shoulders as they work on different manuals. When possible, use lower manuals. Approach the touch of the dead instrument of organ, remembering that it does not respond. Relaxed, supple response in touch, rather than piano dynamic touch. Feel limb to back energy whenever you can. For core engagement, remember that the core functions as a connector and facilitator. Use spiraling, moving torso to the left or right without really overly moving your pelvis, instead of bending at one pressure point. An additional part of body engagement is breath engagement. As keyboardists, our instrument does not require us to breathe as part of our music making. It is common reaction for people to hold their breath or take shallow, uneven breaths in times of stress or thinking. However, oxygen helps to fuel our muscles and brain. Steady, whole body breathing out of time with music can help provide consistent fuel to muscles. Here I will bring in some interesting statistics found in the 2020 Organist Pain Survey, which was part of my doctoral work and I mentioned in a previous video. In this graph, you see the percentage of reporting for styles of breathing while playing. Ideally, the music would not impose on our body's need for regular oxygen intake, as it helps to fuel our brain. Interestingly, we found associations for those who held their breath while playing had higher reports of neck pain, and those who reported breathing naturally had lower reports of neck pain. These 3 body areas, when engaged, plus an engaged breathing system, can create total body alignment. If we go to specific body engagement by body part, I'm going to ask you to come back on the bench. Okay, so the big thing that we know from occupational health and safety is that the recommendation is feet should be planted firmly on the floor. That's not going to work, which is why I've made the recommendation in multiple places, practice on the piano when you can, because at least you have a floor.
Oh, okay.
So if you're just doing note work, manuals only, you can go to the piano. You don't necessarily have to be at the organ unless you're working specifically on touch. But if you're just running notes, Like any time that you can be on the piano or take a break on the piano, it's gonna help because your feet can be firmly on the floor. Or you can cancel your pedal and maybe try putting your feet on the floor, but that depends on how your organ tuner feels about that choice.
And that doesn't change at all the way in which you start to play the organ with the same notes? Like the balance isn't any different?
So for your body,
Right.
you mean? That's a great question. So, it could change it a little bit. That's a good point. But ideally, you're going to have a more stable balance with your feet on the floor than perched. Because once you perch, you show a standard organ perch position. You got your right foot on the boxes, left foot on the back. Okay, so your left foot is crammed and your right foot is kind of comfy. It has a flat spot, but you're encouraging, you're not able to take as much weight in the lower body as you could if your feet were flat on the floor.
Right.
And it's uneven.
Yeah.
So long term, if you do that 2-3 hours a day, that's not ideal. It would be better if you could break it up with some piano, feet flat on the floor.
Oh, okay. And where is the tension coming from? That's dangerous if you practice like this for a long time.
Holding that position. So would you go to a yoga class? And so it's kind of like a light version of going to a yoga class and doing this for a long time.
Right.
So anytime that you ask your body to hold the same position, it will start to assume fatigue the longer you're in it, right? So then there's other breaks in the alignment that start to happen, compensation, and that's why a lot of us end up more and more slumped through a practice session. Right. So even refreshing your practice session can be helpful as well. Breaks and things, which I talk about in a different section of the presentation. Ideally, so your right and left foot will be ideally on a flat surface. Don't use the knees together rule. Have you been?
All the time.
Okay.
I used to do it all the time.
Yeah. There's no proof that it's just something we've inherited, and
That's sad.
and I understand why, and it's to help us find our notes, right? Like it's to help us know where our legs are and what's happening. But look at that angle when you open up. Yeah, that's not a natural body alignment.
No, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you see, you don't have to do it. You can follow the natural body alignment of how your hip would want to move. If you just look at me for a second.
Right, yeah, instead of being in.
Yeah, we naturally have a bit of a turnout for a lot of us. So you follow your turnout. We're not talking ballerina turnout, just.
Right.
Yeah, you want to follow your natural line. And so if now you go, well, I've always used my knees together to find my place, there are other ways to do that. You can, put your left foot always between B flat and C sharp now you know where you are. And the right foot between E flat and F sharp. Yeah. And that's to find your notes. If you're not playing with the pedal, put them in their stationary position, whatever is most comfortable. So pull them up but no dangling, because again, that's asking your core to do more work than it needs to.
Right. Yeah.
We want to be aware of the body and shoulders. When different manuals, we already talked about that. The dead instrument concept. So a lot of pianists come into organ and they go,
right.
yeah, and we know musically that that's not worth the effort, but it's actually not very safe for us physically because it's the equivalent. Yes, there's a little bit of wiggle room. We have a bit of a shock system in the key, but really it's not that different from going.
Yeah. There's
nothing there to take the force. So just remembering as pianists not to come in with that, gonna play something loud. Just let the organ do it for you. And then this feeling limb to back energy connection, pianists talk about it as well, but again, that's the aligned, try and avoid the kink in the audio cable. So when you're up and aligned and kind of maybe shaking out, think of your S curve. Could you get us into a nice, there you go. Drop these a little bit. Drop, drop, drop. There you go. And then I'd like to see you just mock play, and feel it drop down. How does that feel?
Feels good.
Yeah?
Is it
Yeah, it looks pretty
look like it's
good.
supposed to be?
Could you try letting your breath drop as you're pretending to play or maybe actually playing? Just letting your breath drop into your stomach, almost down into your buttocks, like full open breath. So ideally, the next phase of all of this is we bring in breath as well. So not only are we using kind of our lower body and upper body, I'm going to come back to the breath in a second. The core engagement, it's a connection and facilitator. It's where everything goes through. It's our hub. So we need to feel the energy moving, all left side, all right side, but across. We need to feel the X. We need to feel that you can move through it without creating a kink. So the rotation, now picture trying not to kink, but you're going to do a left hand into the treble clef move. So I'm hoping you're feeling energy that way.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep you with a few less kinks than if you just went, show us a quick throw. Yeah. Yeah. So we want to avoid this. Where
Tension being
here. And we want it to come more out of a healthy spiral.
So you should be turning more?
A little
right
bit,
side?
yeah. Again, it's not forced tension. It's a little bit of everything, and it's allowing the muscles to help support each other. So our goal is to not feel one spot go,
Right.
and so it might mean that different places are sharing the load. Everybody's different, and so everybody will have to do something slightly different. But the reminder is to encourage this engagement and the crossbody. The crossbody is going to allow kind of that smoother move, because the thing that we forget as organists is we're actually required to do a lot of twists, right? Like, let's see you play holding on to whichever way you hold on with your hands. Let's see you try and grab pedal notes at the top. It's pretty good. Do you think you could try it again, but this time have a bit more engagement, thinking, have you ever laid on the floor, had your arms T-crossed, and then moved your knees to one side?
Not for a very long time.
But you remember that move?
Yeah.
Yeah. So picture
Stretch,
that,
stretching.
but we're not kinking here. We're having it flow through like that X.
The X being what? From bottom left, top right?
Yeah, exactly. So like here up to here, and there up to there. So you're going to probably feel more abdominal engagement.
So I should completely turn, but I shouldn't be leaning at all, so that there's no sort of tension.
That's a good question. I think it's more of a stacking. So right now, the habit you came in with leaning back is happening a bit.
Yeah, to get the
Yeah.
notes, so it should be.
So we're we're going to have it come more from this front. So if you just look at me for a second, I'm kind of, if I was to do it, it's like my front is helping me move this way. So it's like I feel this. Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, that looks better. And these are just feelings to explore. They're not explicit do's or don'ts at this point. We're delving way past what the what the slides are saying. So the final thing is the breath engagement. So we discovered something very interesting. Organists who reported that their breath was really even and steady no matter what had less reporting of experiencing pain than organists who had funny breathing, like holding or breathing with the phrases. And it kind of makes sense because the breath feeds the brain, like it's oxygen. So if we're doing something really difficult, we have this tendency to hold our breath, but actually our brain needs oxygen to do the difficult thing. So part of the whole body alignment is we're trying to feel all the body parts at once. We're trying to, if we're doing a thing that happens to be with the left arm, we're still feeling what that action is doing through the rest of our body, and we're breathing deeply, and we're feeling the breath through our whole body at the same time, evenly, no matter what we're doing while playing. And all of those things combined can help us avoiding some of overuse injury risks. When approaching the body as a whole focus, try to seek a feeling of whole body connection and engagement through applying lower, upper, and core engagement, fluid connected motions, and even steady, open, full breaths. Feeling connection specifically between all 4 limbs and through the torso, think of movement from one space to the next rather than of a singular motion. From a space of connectivity, our movements need to flow through our bodies. While rules have helped us learn to play the organ, they don't need to stay with us if they create rigidity and unwanted tension. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that this has been helpful. Good luck on your journey.